Welcome to Vite Bits, Lesson 4, Native Web Components. In this lesson, we learn how to generate native web components using Vite, Lit, and ChatGPT. These are our objectives. First, we need to define what a browser native web component is. Second, we explore how ChatGPT can help us. We build 3 projects. The first project uses native JavaScript APIs that come standard with most modern browsers. The second project uses the Lit API, which can drastically reduce the amount of code required. Our third project goes beyond the simple hello world of the first 2 projects to build a task timer. This project also demonstrates how to use ChatGPT to assist in debugging any problems caused by errors in the initial code generated by ChatGPT. There are 2 requirements for this tutorial. You need to have Node installed, and you need a good editor. I will be using WebStorm, but VS Code or an equivalent IDE is fine. The resources listed here are also listed in the description below so you can easily click on them. If you would rather copy and paste the ChatGPT prompts, then you can clone the ViteBits repository and go to the Lesson 4 prompts directory. To see a fuller example of a timer component that started with ChatGPT, you can visit the V2 Timer Component project. What is a native web component? It is a component built using JavaScript APIs that are standard in modern browsers. The standard was finalized in 2016 and adopted over the next 4 years. There are 3 key features. First, you can define a custom element and use it like any normal HTML tag, across different browsers. Second, the shadow DOM isolates your custom element from the global DOM. Finally, HTML templates lets you define reusable HTML chunks. How can ChatGPT help? First, create a good prompt. Then generate the code and copy it to the clipboard. Run the code and see if it works. You may need to go back and refine your prompt. At some point, you will take over and do the final edits, especially in the UI appearance. Let's start our first project. We will use ChatGPT to generate the initial code for a native web component. This component will use JavaScript APIs that come standard with most modern browsers. It is a simple hello world, with an optional name attribute. The HTML tag that we are defining will be called Project 1. Open up a terminal and make a directory called Lesson 4. cd into it. Now initialize a project using -y to go with the defaults. Install Vite as a developer dependency. Create an empty file called index.html. Make a directory called source and create another empty file called project1.js. Now start WebStorm. Now that we are in WebStorm, open up the project1.js file in the source directory. We are ready to start using ChatGPT. In your browser, enter the URL, chatgpt.com. Enter the first prompt into ChatGPT. It creates 2 files, project1.js and index.html. Copy project1.js to the clipboard and return to WebStorm. Now, paste the clipboard contents into project1.js. A few things to note: Project 1 extends HTML element. We create a shadow root, which will provide encapsulation for our component. We create a div wrapper for the component and define its styles. Get the name attribute or set the default if it is not defined. Append the div wrapper to the shadow root. The next sections tells the component which properties to observe and to keep an eye on them for changes. Finally, we define the tag name so that we can use it in index.html. Return to ChatGPT. Now, scroll down to index.html. Copy it to the clipboard and return to WebStorm. Open the file index.html and paste the clipboard into it. At the top, we import project1.js as a module. Next, we see the first use of the project1 tag, with no attribute. Finally, we see the second use, which does make use of the name attribute. Now, open the terminal and type npx vite to start the dev environment. Click on the URL and go to your browser. It worked on our first try without any code modification. That's what we want. Let's start project 2. This project will return to our ChatGPT session and instruct ChatGPT to convert our JavaScript into TypeScript, using the lit3 API and decorators. We will also need to create tsconfig.json to enable the use of decorators, an experimental feature. So, what is Lit? It is a lightweight API for building native web components. It can simplify and reduce the amount of code you need to write. A short example can show these benefits. Let's see an example. First, we import from Lit and Lit decorators. Custom element is the first decorator. This will be the HTML tag name. Next, we see that simple greeting extends the Lit element class. We see styles defined using the CSS tag function and a template literal syntax. Finally, we see the property decorator that corresponds to an attribute on the HTML tag. The render function makes it visible. Let's go back to WebStorm and shut down the dev environment with Ctrl+C. Now install Lit. To enable decorators, we need to create a file called tsconfig.json and set the experimental decorators flag inside the compiler options. Create an empty file called project2.ts inside the source directory. Now, return to your ChatGPT session. Since we are in the same ChatGPT session, it will remember the context of our last prompt. We instruct ChatGPT to convert our JavaScript into TypeScript, and to use lit3 and decorators. We request that it just gives us the code with no explanation. Enter the prompt into ChatGPT. Remember, your results may vary. Now, copy the TypeScript into the clipboard and return to WebStorm. Paste the clipboard into Project 2. We see the lit imports at the top. The custom element decorator defines the HTML tag. Project 2 extends the lit element class. The property decorator defines the tag name attribute. We're going to change the border color from red to blue to distinguish it from Project 1. The render function will display it. The global declaration at the bottom is for the benefit of TypeScript typing. Now, click on index.html. We need a script tag to bring in project2.ts. Create the tags for project 2. Start the dev environment with npx Vite and visit the URL. We have 2 new components with blue borders. Everything worked. In Project 3, we move away from elementary Hello World components to something more interactive and useful. With the help of ChatGPT, we will build a 30-minute countdown task timer. There is an optional attribute that can specify a different duration in minutes. This is our prompt. Type it into ChatGPT exactly as you see it. Alternatively, you can use prompt3.txt from Lesson 4 in the GitHub project listed in the description. We tell it to use TypeScript and lit. We want 2 buttons that change text depending on the state of the component. Finally, we tell ChatGPT to just give us the code without a lot of explanation. Let's head over to ChatGPT. I have entered the prompt and generated the code. Now, copy the code to the clipboard and return to WebStorm. Shut down the dev server. Create a new file in the source directory called timercomponent.ts. Paste the clipboard contents from ChatGPT into the new file. At the top, we have our lit imports. We see decorators for custom element, property, and state. We have methods to start, stop, and pause the timer. Finally, we have the render method, which is responsible for changing the labels on the buttons depending on state. Head over to index.html. Import the module timercomponent.ts. At the bottom, create 2 instances of the timer component. One uses the default duration, the second one provides a duration of 15 minutes. Now run it with npx Vite and visit the URL. The first instance looks good. But the second instance has a problem. Our 15-minute duration did not take effect. If you click Start and Stop, the 15-minute shows correctly. It feels like a DOM timing issue. This brings up a good point. ChatGPT is not perfect. Congratulations, humans still have a purpose. Let's head back to ChatGPT and see if it can fix its own code. I've entered the following prompt. The duration always shows 30 until I press Start Stop. ChatGPT understands my prompt and generates the corrected code. We won't copy the entire file, just the snippet we need. Scroll down to the will update method and copy it to the clipboard. Return to WebStorm. Paste in the new method snippet and return to the browser. The second instance now correctly shows 15 minutes. Click Start and Stop to verify that it is behaving correctly. Instance 1 is also working. Congratulations! In summary, we learned that web components are built using JavaScript APIs native to modern browsers. Next, we saw how to use ChatGPT to generate the initial code. We created a project using vanilla JavaScript with no imports, other than Vite. In our second project, we took advantage of TypeScript and Lit to simplify our first project. Finally, we built a timer component to demonstrate a more complicated project and how to use ChatGPT to assist in correcting software errors. We hope you found this tutorial helpful. If you did, kindly consider subscribing to the channel or buying us a coffee. Thanks for watching.